Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to OCD Recovery's YouTube channel. I wanted to make a video. I was driving home from a meeting and I was thinking about, what are some of the things, the mistakes I made that maybe I wish I knew along the journey, or maybe some of the ones I was a little bit stubborn on because Rob and I were having a lot of one-to-one sessions because I was in a really bad spot. And I felt like, I could never get better, especially when sensory motor was my entire life. It was very hard for me to see the light. So I understand what that feels like when you're really stuck. So I want to talk about a couple things that maybe I wish I would have put a little bit more merit on, but it is all part of the recovery journey itself. And I had to do a lot of, philosophical changing of my beliefs in order to get to the place where I am today. And even when you get to a place where there's no longer chronic suffering, which is the absence of chronic anxiety, shame, guilt, chronic depression, it's not that you'll never feel anger again, but there's a regulation on it because anger is a human emotion. Your beliefs have really changed and you've reached a robust level of recovery, almost like a factory reset, as we call it. But it doesn't mean you want to never work on beliefs ever again. Albert Ellis's book, REBT, it worked for me. It can work for you too. It's a book he wrote. I've been speaking about this in a couple of the latest videos. An autobiography he wrote in 2003 when I believe he was 89 or 90, talking about that he needed to practice unconditional other acceptance for the majority of his life. So practicing the philosophical outlooks from rational thinking, from stoicism, or whatever you choose to, implement into changing your belief system is really important, something to keep up with forever. And so is, ERP in a way, exposures, where you're going to be facing fears for the rest of your life, no matter where you are, maybe in your business or your work, or having hard conversations with your friends and family and stuff like that. You'll more than likely always want to, put yourself, not compulsively, but in situations that more than likely make you feel uncomfortable. There's nothing wrong with being in comfort all the time, but a lot of the great potential benefits of life come from putting ourselves in some of these situations. This is an Erica mug. It says, "A fun thing to do in the morning is not talk to me," which, if you know me, that's impossible because I like to talk. So, yeah, she married me. She has to deal with it for now, unless she leaves me, which she could. So don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, comment down below on some of the things that maybe you wish you realized in the beginning, maybe some things you want more clarification on and stuff like that. So the first thing I want to talk about is how much belief systems play into OCD. Everyone hears me talk about my sensory motor journey all the time. It's something I'm really well known for in the sensory motor community, also known as somatic OCD. But what I don't talk about a lot is my severe struggle with body dysmorphia and my severe struggle with the fear of losing muscle and or gaining fat. So, when you look at the community, the bodybuilding community, when you look at the fitness community, there's nothing wrong with running a program. There's nothing wrong with counting macros, although I don't recommend it, especially counting macros specifically. I still run exercise programs. I only go to the gym 3 days a week right now because I really need to start implementing some balance. I was at the point for a year where I was lifting with weights 6 days a week, 5 days a week, and then hiking 2 times a week, sometimes 3 times a week. And then with everything else going on in my life, it was really compulsive. And anytime I felt uncomfortable, I would just run to exercise. I think many people do that. I heard a great quote one time that said, I'm not on the treadmill because I actually want to feel healthy. I'm on the treadmill because I want to desperately control my weight. And when I heard that, it was really an eye-opening statement for me. So what are the belief systems that were surrounding my body dysmorphia? If I lost muscle, then my life would be terrible. If I got fat, my life would be terrible. It was to the point where anytime I would do any sort of soft tissue on someone in my regular job, or anytime I would do any type of physical activity such as, mow the lawn or anything like that. Sorry, I got a huge itch on my leg. It would feel so real that my muscle was burning off of me. It felt that real that even just lifting and carrying a box, I was so over concerned if I was doing too much extra activity and all that stuff. The thing is, the way I look at exercise now, which has definitely been, to be completely honest, get out of here, buddy. Yeah, get out of here. I'm allergic to bees, so yeah, I'm a little sissy. You guys can laugh at me later. I'm allergic to bees, grass, trees, pollen. I'm basically allergic to everything I'm looking at right now. So, it's so funny, all these videos I do with these bees. So, the belief was so strong that no amount of exposures would actually really budge it. And it wasn't until not that long ago that I realized that I really need to get comfortable with my worst case scenario. Sensory motor was very similar. I talk about that, but so is my body dysmorphia. This is why it goes to show you that you really need to work on these beliefs a lot more than you think you do in order to reach a robust level of recovery. Some of these stickier fears, doesn't matter what the fear is, whether it's harm, OCD, anything like that. Get out of here. Anything like that. All those particular type of fears, fear of bees, will need some sort of deconstructing of the belief system in order to get to where you want to go. That is something that really cannot be overlooked. So in order to change my belief system, I needed to go out and do the things I was avoiding. So I was avoiding doing soft tissue on people. I was avoiding doing any other physical activity or labor because I was afraid of losing muscle. And I guarantee a lot of people will be able to relate to this. If you watch this and you maybe struggle with this as well. This is something I believe that everyone in the fitness industry could actually benefit from. The fitness industry tends to be one of the most conditional places on the planet. In order to accept myself, I have to look a certain way, but you don't. There's nothing wrong with lifting weights. There's nothing wrong with wanting to get jacked or anything like that. But it's actually not a necessity in life by any means whatsoever. And once you really realize that, you could still have your goals and passions, but back off from the conditional acceptance you hold. The second thing I wanted to talk about was that exposures, which I thought would be enough, ended up not being enough. So, which ties directly into point number one. I did exposure after exposure with my body dysmorphia for 3 years. I wore tighter clothes around my midsection to make it feel like I was really fat. I would force extra activity to prove to myself that I could stand it, but that actually didn't really do anything except for chase a compulsive cycle. It did a little bit. If you have contamination OCD or harm OCD and you're avoiding a lot of things, you're going to have to build up to a hierarchy. You don't have to jump into your highest exposure. But I promise you that's not going to be enough to unlatch it at that sticky level that you've moved with uncertainty, moved with time and patience, and you haven't seen the relief you want to see. Patience is one of the most important aspects of OCD recovery or anything in life, and so is balance. Patience and balance is a philosophical perspective that you don't need to get it done right now. You could feel all those emotions and move forward in your life. That was so critical to my OCD recovery, especially when it came to sensory motor, where I was absolutely convinced that I could just show myself over and over and over again that I could stand this sensation, but that wasn't it because I was afraid of being stuck forever. I never even addressed the core fear. So the core fear of my body dysmorphia was if I lose muscle, if I don't look a certain way in shirts, if I had a gut by any means or anything like that, that I would never be able to accept myself and that my life was terrible and it was horrible. So I had to really start deconstructing that belief system, balance my workouts, only go to the gym a couple days a week. Nothing wrong with going to the gym 5 days a week. I might do that again in the future. Right now, it just doesn't fit my lifestyle. I got a lot going on. The hiking takes a lot out of me. If you're in the WhatsApp groups, I hiked 4 14ers on Sunday, which was wild, a lot of fun. It takes a lot out of you, so there needs to be a balance. Athletes, I truly do believe if you want to be the best on earth at something, you more than likely need to accept that you won't be balanced all the time, so you can accept that you can't accept. And you can't accept that you're not balanced, but that's another degree of changing your belief system. The third thing I want to talk about was that I wish I knew was just how important wearing discomfort like an uncomfortable coat really means. Now, what I meant by that is, and something that we all do, is that when you hear me say, like in the webinar, I'm speaking at a webinar today, and we have a whole list of webinars coming up. So if you want to know more about the webinar services, please email phil@ocdrecovery.com, and you can ask for prices, what we talk about. We really deconstruct a lot of beliefs. You hear me say wear anxiety like an uncomfortable coat, and so what you do is, naturally, I did it, Rob did it, all the moderators do it, everyone else that's gone through OCD recovery, is you wear it with this belief. I'm gonna wear this until it goes. And what you do is you're actually using something beneficial and you're turning it into another forcing technique. There's no techniques in OCD recovery. It's just looking at your fears for what they are and deconstructing those fears and realize there's nothing to actually be scared of in the long term. But in order to do that, you have to actually get comfortable with really being uncomfortable for an unknown amount of time, maybe a year, maybe 3 years, who knows? I always tell people, don't judge your recovery process, which is difficult for me to say because I really struggle with this, really struggled with it with sensory motor and my body dysmorphia, was work on recovery and judge it 3-6 months down the road on your beliefs. Are you changing your beliefs? Don't particularly do it off the way you're feeling right now, because that can be a huge dead end. We don't want to base our recovery journey off the way we feel, because it can convince you in 0 to 100 that you've never made any progress, and then that's a problem as well. So wearing anxiety like an uncomfortable coat means I'm going to wear all this. That's all physical symptoms of anxiety: chronic shame, guilt, groinal responses, chronic depression, all those sensations it comes with, all the urges, the instant 0 to 100 backdoor spikes and relapses. I'm going to wear all that as best as I can whilst I go about my life for the time being, with no deadline on when this should or shouldn't go. That's very difficult for people to say here, because it might not ever go. Now, look, if you put the work in, change your beliefs, work on your fears, move with uncertainty, time, and patience, you'll more than likely reach your goals, but there's no guarantee. It's like someone starting a business. You could read every business book on earth, go get a master's in business from Harvard, and do everything the book says and still fail every single time. You put yourself in a much higher chance, but you have to accept. Reinhold Messner, which is a world-renowned famous high mountaineer and alpinist, he said, no matter what you do in your life, there's always a chance of failure. But you could go for it, but there's always a chance of failure. Always. And that's just something that OCD sufferers will have to accept in the time being, until they maybe figure out the cure. Because right now we don't need a cure. We have recovery, but there's no guarantees that you'll reach some super robust level. Again, you put yourself in a really high position, but there's no guarantee. So I think that's important. So remember, we've talked about changing your beliefs, exposures, and then wearing anxiety like an uncomfortable coat. The fourth thing I wish I maybe applied a little bit stronger to myself was, really working on my beliefs surrounding that others will usually not understand OCD. I would really hold my wife and pin my wife to the wall with that. You don't understand. If only you had OCD, none of your problems matter. My problems matter more, which is a really kind of just self-centered, whiny mentality that we all fell into. Now, the only reason I was offended by that was because I had a belief that others should understand. We know what works. All the things I've talked about so far, we don't actually need other people to understand us. It would be nice if they did, but we don't need them to. And that's a critical part of the OCD recovery process. Understanding that you'll probably hear OCD jokes in movies and magazines for the remainder of your life. And it's the small man's game. I got this from Rob. The small man's game is trying to prove someone wrong and trying to prove to others that you're right. That's the small man's game. And this is this took me 3 years to really accept. 3 years. Lots of ups and downs. That I don't need anyone to realize anything about me. I don't need other people to understand what I do. If they don't like me or what I do, that's okay. We don't like everyone. We're not robots. We all think the same way. So that was a clear-cut, huge part of my OCD recovery journey. And the fifth thing I wish I knew, the last thing I want to talk about, is just how important lifestyle factors are. So when we talk about lifestyle factor changes, when I go into a one-to-one call with someone, or the webinars like today, when someone is really stuck with some sticky fear and they're having panic attacks, trying to change your beliefs in the moment just isn't going to cut it. It's just not going to do it. So what you do is you help try and instill some lifestyle factor changes, simple steps. Do you go to work? Have you not worked? Do you socialize? Do you go out? And now that we're moving out of, we're out of COVID times, all those things. Do you exercise 3 days a week? Do you want to start a business? All the other things that, bring discomfort with you. The problem is we have a very, very weird societal belief right now based around, it's not that work and life balance is not important. It's just that people are like, if I don't have it, my life is terrible. But you have to think back of all the types of work environments over thousands of years and realize how lucky you have it. The fact that you can even go home from work to a house with water is critical. So many people were working for no money, slave conditions, extreme poverty. So there's nothing wrong with wanting a work-life balance, but that doesn't mean you deserve a work-life balance just because you're human. The only thing that you really deserve, if even so, is you're just alive, and that's about it. So those are all the things I wanted to talk about, was really realizing how important it was to go out, go to work, have meaning in my work, make these videos for you, which are really important, and do these other things that were really, really critical for my OCD recovery journey. Now, If you guys have anything else you wanted to add, maybe some mistakes you made, just let me know and comment down below. We could talk about it. As always, if you have any information on the coaching services or the webinars, email phil@ocrecovery.com with a title. Maybe you're interested in coaching packages or webinar services. If you come to a coaching call or a webinar service, you get to join the WhatsApp groups, which are awesome. Lots of different stuff. Some of the groups have 60, 70 different people, all different themes, all different cultures. It makes you realize you're not alone. It's also good for realizing that there's other people out there dealing with things, like, of Alexander living in a war zone in Ukraine, some people living in other war zones, some people living in poverty, all these other things that they're happening in people's lives that you just forgot about. So thank you so much for watching. And as always, have a great day.